everyone. I'm Mrs. Bartlett. I'm one of the school counselors here. I work with students' last names A through G, and if you're okay, we'll probably present kind of down in the front here. It's a little more comfortable to be down by you guys than up here. And then I'll introduce the other two counselors here.
I am Kirsten Mazowski. I am the counselor for students' last names H through N.
And I am Jenny Wander, counselor for students with last names O through Z.
Okay, so we're really happy you guys are all here. We're going to go through a series of information, and a lot of this, for the juniors who are in the room, we're going to be going over this again in the near future in your classrooms. We come in again senior year and we give them this information, but we just find a lot of families starting to ask questions now in your junior year as you're planning ahead. So as we were sitting and talking about this, we thought, what if we do a parent night as well, just to keep you planning ahead, what kind of questions to ask and kind of what your next steps are. So as we go through our information today, all of this, if you want to go back and see it, we're going to email it out probably tomorrow, as well as a recording of this presentation. And then we also have everything on our website. So if you go to the high school, if you go to the New Richmond School website and make sure you click high school, there is a tab that says school counseling, and then there is a junior planning tab, and then also a senior planning tab. So you don't have to go to the senior planning tab, but for kids who want to kind of look ahead or get some ideas for what's coming up, certainly go there, click around, see where we put things, and kind of just get yourself familiar with all of those resources. But as for today, we are going to talk about being on track for graduation. So reminding you of those graduation requirements, then how to research and start applying to post-secondary school. Again, these are things you don't have to do until senior year. So none of this is like, hurry up and get it done right now. It's just to kind of put in the back of your head of when you're gonna be doing those things. We're gonna go over testing information, what's coming up for that, and then some information about understanding financial aid and scholarships. So we did do when you guys RSVP'd, there were a few questions on there. We wanted to make sure we hit on what you needed to know, and these were kind of the main points that kept coming up. However, if we don't hit on something, at the end we'll have an opportunity for questions, and we'll answer those, and then also an opportunity to sign up for an individual conference with your counselor if you feel that's something you need, so we can help you one-on-one. All right, so hopefully, I feel like making this interactive and asking juniors, do you guys know what you need to graduate, right? I hope so by this point. So they've known this, as their counselors were tracking it. I joke that we are, transcript stalking you every single semester. We make sure that you're hitting your credits. If you aren't for whatever reason, you will know. Nobody's gonna get to senior year and find out, oh, I'm missing something, I'm not graduating. That just doesn't happen. If you are in that boat, we would have been talking with you, we would have been communicating with families. So never worry that maybe there's something we're missing. We're tracking all that. And then when we do scheduling in the spring, which will actually be a little sooner this year, we'll do it in January, we'll be reminding students of all those requirements. So you need the 4 credits of English, no matter who you are, what your plans are. If you're I just want to graduate and get out of here and go on to work, or I want to go to a prestigious 4-year college. Everyone needs their 4 years of English. You need 3 credits of math, 2 credits of social studies in terms of the history, but then also a half credit of economics and a half credit of civics, the 3 credits of science with, they would have taken principles of science freshman year, you guys got your bio done last year, and then everyone's probably working on Chem 1 right now. For students who are 4-year college bound, you want to make sure you take Chem 2 next semester, so if you don't have that in, come talk to us, we can fit that in for you. But for other students who are thinking 2-year college or other opportunities, you can pick another science of your choice to round that credit out. You need your 1.5 credits of Phy Ed and then a half credit of health. So we get a lot of questions about Phy Ed and the opt-out. So the opt-out is if you are in a JV or varsity sport and you also are filling your schedule with another higher level, another core elective beyond what's required. So what I mean by that is you're taking an additional credit of science beyond what's required, or an additional English, math, whatever that may be. You can qualify to opt out. There is an application for that, so you need to visit us in counseling before your season starts to see if you qualify, and then we could talk that out too. So that's how you can pick up another half, your remaining half credit of Phi-Ed. And then there's the health. All right, so in terms of planning and decision making, and if you want to pick up, I think most of you did, all of these slides. If you want to take notes, feel free if you're a note taker. Again, this will be on the website if you want to ever go back and use these links on there, because I probably won't click into all of them, and some of them are a little hard to read with the green. But you want to be doing your research now. If you have no idea what you want to do yet, that's still okay, but you want to start narrowing it down at this point. Freshman year, we were saying it's totally okay to have no idea. Junior year, you want to start having some clue and talking about that. It is not too early to start visiting schools. We have college representatives in the Career Center pretty frequently. We just had St. Thomas this week. We have military recruiters, so we're always putting those on announcements. So come on down when they're in, ask them questions, bring your own questions, and then also, you can start going to their websites and setting up visits. It's very easy to set up a college visit. Sometimes you just go on their website, you sign up right there. Sometimes you just give them a call. There may be something called preview days. So let's say you want to go into nursing. Sometimes a nursing preview day, if the college offers that, is really worthwhile because you can go into the nursing program and talk with some of the professors and get a lot more information about that specific program. But not every program has a preview day, but if you see that terminology, that's what that means. We talked a little bit about military. If anyone is thinking military, talk to recruiters now. Maybe you're a student who wants to go to a four-year college, traditional four-year college, but you're thinking, maybe I want to serve. There's other options like Reserve Officer Training Corps, which is ROTC for short. You go to college, you come out as an officer, then they commission you into the military. There's Guard, there's Reserves, there's active duty right out of school. So there's a lot of cool options that students might not be aware of unless you talk to some recruiters. And then of course, if you're thinking, I don't know if I want to go straight to school, I don't know if I want to do trades, but maybe an apprenticeship would be neat. Those are really great opportunities to learn right on the job. So you get in with the company. To get those, there's a lot of ways. You can be networking with community members or community programs now. You could contact Countryside Plumbing and Heating, for example. They work with us on a lot of scholarships. Or maybe there's another building construction, maybe Derrick Construction. Contact them, ask if they have apprenticeship programs. Don't be afraid to do that as juniors. And then there's also these great links where you can go to, it says, you can read it, apprenticeship.gov, and then there's the Wisconsin Apprenticeship website, and then we also have the Minnesota Apprenticeship website. So that's where you can see where more formal apprenticeship programs are. So that's another awesome avenue. If you're planning to go straight into the workforce, we really encourage students in their senior year to start working on resumes. Write your cover letters or your introduction letters. You have us here to help you. You have your English teachers here to help you to get you off on a good start. All right, any questions about that? Feeling all good? All right, so another thing we get a lot of questions about is what's the difference between all these options? So for some families, if you've been to school and you've kind of gone through this, it may be just review for you, but for some people, students, they're not really sure. So a vocational school is going to be a very specific college for very specific training. Oftentimes they're under a year, so maybe they're like a 9-month certification program. That's if you're learning something, maybe it's a culinary arts, maybe it's line worker school, something like that, automotive. Then when you're getting into the 2-year community college and technical schools, again, a technical school is still going to be pretty specific to the degree field you want to go into. Community colleges can be a little more general, but they can have a variety of all of those, but they are 2-year programs, so you're looking at an associate's degree. Okay? There is also the option of a 2-year to a 4-year, which we'll talk about in a second, which is actually getting pretty popular in saving money, and for students who aren't sure they're ready to jump right into a 4-year or they don't know that they need to, there's some really cool 2-year to 4-year options. And then of course there's the traditional 4-year college and university if you need that for what you want to do. So not everything needs a 4-year degree. Some things you could get a 4-year degree in a certain area as well as a 2-year, like nursing. So, you just have to decide where you want to see yourself and what steps you want to take for that. But again, do your research. Start looking into places. All right, so then this is some other considerations if you're looking at that 2-year or a tech program. So we talked about associate and certification programs, but the transferring to a 4-year college is what we get a bulk of our questions about, I would say, in terms of, what if I just want to go to Northwood Tech? I want to live at home, save some money, but I think I do want to go to a 4-year for what I want to do. How does that work? So in the state of Wisconsin, our university or our Wisconsin technical colleges do have what's called an articulation agreement or agreement with the UW system schools, so the University of Wisconsin 4-year programs, that they will guarantee a transfer of a 60 credit program as long as it kind of fits into this mold of your generals. So for example, at Northwood Tech, they do offer an associate of the Associate of the Arts and an Associate of the Science. So those, if you do that program, you can pick it up. If you do fairly well, like a C+ average or higher, you can pick it up and automatically transfer it into a 4-year college. In Wisconsin for sure, likely in Minnesota, but we just don't have like the written agreement with them. But most of them will transfer. Now, if you want to go to Northwood Tech and do something very specific, like for example, veterinary technician, like a vet tech, that's probably not going to just pick up and transfer. It's just a very specific program. So if you're thinking you're in that avenue where you're not sure what you want to do, go and request an appointment with their admissions representative. And this is if you're looking at Chippewa Valley Tech, Northwood Tech, Century College up in White Bear Lake, wherever you're looking, don't be afraid to set up an appointment even now in your junior year and say, how would this transfer if I wanted to? If that's something you're thinking you want to do. Anything to add to that? It's pretty. Let's see. Again, this is just a really great option if you're trying to save some money or you're just not 100% sure. Now, if your heart is set on, I know I want to go to UW Eau Claire for music, this probably isn't going to be your avenue. You know what you want to do. But if you're still you want a stepping stone, it's nice to walk out with an at least associate's degree. So if you want to keep going, great. But if you're like, I don't know, at least you walk out with something. And so that's always a perk as well of the 2-year to 4-year route. As far as ACT, they do not require an ACT to get into a 2-year. Actually, right now, 4-year colleges are waiving that requirement as well till 2025 in the UW system. So again, not required for admission, but you certainly can submit it. It does help them with placement into what classes you should be, and it doesn't hurt you to submit it even at a 4-year. Even if you didn't do super hot on it, so you can still submit it, and it will never hurt you. They'll only use it to help you get in. But then there's also some other placement tests like the AccuPlacer or the Compass that some tech schools use if for some reason your ACT wasn't great or didn't hit the benchmarks you needed it to. All right, and we kind of talked a ton about this. So I don't have to go into a ton of extra on that, but I do want to point out something called 2-year colleges versus like the community college. So this is where it goes, okay, what's this? So now in Wisconsin, we have something called, they're kind of like junior colleges. They're just freshman and sophomore colleges, but they're more of a traditional university experience. So all of our 2-year colleges in Wisconsin are operated through a UW 4-year college. So for example, the closest 2-year college is UW Eau Claire Barron County. So it's in Rice Lake, but it's operated through Eau Claire. And they have an agreement, again, where if, again, maybe high school was a little trickier for you, but you want more of a traditional college experience, you could go to something like this. And again, if you get a C+ average or higher, you're guaranteed admission to a UW school of your choice, unless you want Madison. Then they do want you to have usually a B+ or higher average, and then there's a few other requirements for Madison. But again, another really awesome avenue to kind of do those stepping stones if hopping right into a 4-year college isn't for you. And then if you ever do come on here, you can click on that link. It shows, actually I wonder if I can click on it. It shows all the 2-year, all the UW system schools and where all the 2-year and 4 years are. And we're not just pushing UW schools. We just happen to get a lot of really great resources from them. It's from Wisconsin. So let's see if this pops up here. Oh, it's kind of a big map. But you could see, you could come on here. Uh-oh, what did I do? Trying to scroll down. There we go. So you can see there's even one way up in the tip there. There we go. So all of the blue are our four-year universities, and then all of those reds are the two-year colleges. And you don't have to go, let's say you wanted to eventually go to Stevens Point, you don't have to go to one of those sister schools like Wausau or Marshfield to transfer in. You can go to the Eau Claire, Barron County, and transfer into any of those. But it just shows you, kind of gives you an idea, wow, we have a lot going on in our state for these options. All right. Trying to get this back up. There we go. All right, so do you guys have any questions about the two-year college system? Okay. And again, we'll talk to you guys, you juniors, again about this as you're thinking through it or starting to go home and talk with your family. As far as admission requirements for four-year colleges, we're kind of lucky. A lot of our requirements to graduate are very close to four-year college admission requirements. So, for example, 4 years of English. However, if you're going to go into a four-year college, you really need to take college prep or the AP version. Some students will take applied communications or creative writing, and they'll say, well, does that count or will that work? And we can't say you absolutely won't get in, but will you be prepared? So it's really more about preparation versus just admission. You don't want to get in and then struggle. You want to be prepared. So that's why we really push that, and a lot of colleges are really saying we want to see that on their transcript. You want the 3 years of math and up through at least at Algebra 2. They really recommend 4 years because you're going to have to take math when you get in. So if you take a break, that's really tough. And you can take a math placement test, but you don't want to test backwards either. You want at least 3 years of science through that chemistry, obviously 3 years of social studies, which is our graduation requirement anyway. The foreign language requirement, we get a lot of questions about as well. That one has always been usually required until the last 10 years, 5 years. A lot of schools are getting rid of that requirement. The University of Wisconsin-Madison does require 2 years of a single foreign language. I think maybe U of M, I'd have to look. But yeah, so again, it's not a requirement, it's just a nice extra on your transcript if you take it. But it can certainly help if you're looking at a competitive school. And then fine arts. So we do not require fine arts to graduate. Wisconsin schools don't require it to get in, but a lot of Minnesota State colleges do like to see 1 year of fine arts. So that will be any of our art classes, music classes, and even like video productions. So it's always, we always push, make sure you're checking colleges. If you have some colleges in mind, make sure you're going online now and just making sure you're knocking out what they like to see. So now this next page, we're gonna watch a short video from the UW Help System, which is just about UW colleges in preparation. Let's see, hopefully it doesn't blast us out of here.
Going to college is like discovering a new and exciting world, full of new experiences and opportunities. However, getting there requires careful planning and hard work. UW Help is here to help you plan to become a student at one of the 26 great campuses that make up the University of Wisconsin system. It is never too early to begin preparing for college. Did you know that there are minimum high school course requirements at each UW campus? To get a jump on your college career, make sure you take at least 4 years of English, including writing and literature courses. 3 years of math, which may include algebra, geometry, and other higher math courses. 3 years of natural science courses, like chemistry, biology, and physics. 3 years of social science courses, like history and ethics. 4 years of electives, like computer science or fine art. Some schools even require 2 years of foreign language, but it is helpful no matter where you apply. Strive to take courses that challenge you. You may even be able to take college courses while you're still in high school. It's a great way to get a head start, so ask a counselor to learn more. Taking the right steps in high school is important, but there is even more you can do to prepare yourself for college, like taking part in pre-college programs, where students like you can spend time on campus, getting a feel for what college life is like. And it's never too early to start planning for college tuition and expenses. Saving up is important, but applying for financial aid and finding the right grants and scholarships can be a huge help. The most important thing is to remember that you're not alone on your journey to college. Reach out to counselors, parents, and university staff for whatever help and guidance you need. Get excited and let your discovery begin.
So UW Help's a really great resource if you're looking at any UW colleges, because it's everything in one place. You don't have to go website to website. So that's just a good resource as well. And so I'm going to pass it off to Mrs. Wander to do the next section.
So the first thing I'm going to go over is a timeline for junior year and senior year, just to give you guys a good visual of what you should be doing this year and next year.
Going to college is like discovering a new...
She really wants to talk to you.
All right, there we go. So this year, so as Shannon said, researching colleges and programs is kind of your job this year. Especially if you don't have ideas of what you want to do, then this is the time to really do that career exploration, which I'll talk about some opportunities a little later with Zello and Asvab. College visits, so we do really strongly encourage families and students to go on college visits their junior and senior year. Again, like Shannon said, a lot of them have preview days, which are fun. They're jam-packed with lots of good information, and some are specific towards particular majors. There are some Saturdays that are also available for those of you that have a hard time taking off work. And then there's always several just general tours offered through the week at all campuses as well. If you are someone that is looking at going right into the workforce, building a resume is a good idea now, but it's also good for those of you that are considering a four-year school, because many college applications do ask for all of the things that you've been involved in throughout high school. And sometimes it is hard when you're filling out an application to remember everything. So if you start to do that now and keep track as you continue this year and next year, it'll make your life a lot simpler next fall when you're applying for college. We do have ACT testing coming up, which we'll talk about, and then we do encourage families to start, if they haven't already, talking about financial aid and paying for school. So then next year, the timeline is that the beginning of the year, we counselors will come into the English classes and we'll talk more specifically about this, but just to give you an idea of what we encourage you to do, is that if you're applying to a 2-year or 4-year school, or apprenticeships, that stuff should be happening early in the year. So by that, we mean September through November. That's really our deadlines. That's what we're encouraging you guys to do. If you look at websites, you'll see those deadlines are usually later than that. But we say if you get those done early, then you have more time to then start applying for those university scholarships and 2-year tech or community college scholarships that are available to you. If you wait till their deadline, which is usually January, February, then those scholarship deadlines are right around the corner and you're gonna miss out. The other thing too is that your college English class is gonna have you write your college essay the first month of school. That is the biggest reason that students procrastinate and don't apply to college right away. So if that's done, why not get that application in by Halloween or at least mid-November. And then October 1st is when the free application for federal student aid, FAFSA, is available. That's how you can qualify for loans. Kirsten's going to talk about that more specifically later. And then all year long, there's tons of scholarships available to students that they can be applying for, and we will talk more about that later, and specifically with seniors, with you guys as seniors next year. We send lots of reminders out about that and talk to students in person about that. Even next year, so our current seniors are still going on college visits because either they never got around to it before, or they are maybe still considering a few schools and they want to go visit again. So that's perfectly okay too. Also next spring is when you have to accept that you're going to go to that school, and then you start putting your money down for housing. And then the four-year schools do require placement testing. They'll send you information about that for math and English and foreign language. All right, so this is one of our career exploration tools. So students have been using Zello since they were in middle school, and they will be using it more next year as seniors. But just to remind you students out there and let parents know, if you are someone in here that has no idea what you want to do, you should go in and you should do some of those career interest inventories to help you decide, or maybe look at a little closer what those programs look like. This is also as a senior where you will be ordering your transcripts that need to be sent off to colleges as part of your application. We'll go through that with you next year. There's a Common App application I'll talk about later that you will connect, can connect the Common App application with Zello. It's pretty slick. There's letters of recommendation, a way for you to request letters through Zello. If you're a student that's going to apply to several schools, and you want to keep everything organized, there's an application tracker, so you can put down when you applied, when you heard back, you know, and did I send my transcripts, so on and so on. And then there's a great resume builder on there too. So like I said a few moments ago about that all of those four-year colleges are going to want to know what activities you were in. If you don't know where to start, do the resume builder on Zello. It is super user-friendly and simple. And then if you're in here and you're going to go right into the workforce or an apprenticeship, you can do the resume as well on Zello. So testing, so you guys have all heard about the ACT for years and years and years now. What is very different over the last few years is that because of COVID, colleges have really backed off in having the ACT be a requirement for admission. So I think Madison was the only college in Wisconsin that's actually still requiring that for admission. But it is part of our state testing, so all juniors will take that this year at school on March 7th. But it will be an option as far as, for many schools, as far as if you guys want to have that part of your application. We do have on the junior planning tab, we do have a list of ACT resources. So if you're someone that wants to do some extra practice for that, that is available there. The practice SAT was yesterday. That is just a practice test for SAT and ACT, but it's also a qualifier for the National Merit Scholarship. We only had 40 students take it yesterday, but just thought it was worth mentioning. And then the Asvab. So Asvab is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. So this is going to be optional to juniors as well, just like PSAT. The Asvab is going to be next Thursday. This is required if you are at all considering the military. But the other reason to take the Asvab would be if you either have no idea what you want to do for a career, or maybe you have some ideas, but you want to make sure like you're actually aligning your aptitudes and interests with the career that you're thinking about. So it can really reiterate what you're already thinking. So what it consists of is you would take the exam. It's going to be online this year. You take the exam here at school next Thursday morning, and then we would have a follow-up session a week or two after where you would do the career exploration part of it. And basically what it does is it matches you with careers based on your interests, but then also on your aptitudes. So it's really specific. And we strongly encourage you to take that if that sounds of interest. We do have sign-ups. We will have sign-ups outside the auditorium tonight. If you're interested, you can put your name down, or you can just email your counselor as well, but that will be optional. All right, I think I already said this, or said the first part, but some colleges do look at the ACT for certain scholarships. So just know that if you're a strong test taker, you know, definitely I would still send them. Like Shannon said earlier too, colleges are at that point where they're really not holding if you had a lower score, they're really not holding that against you. So we feel like there's no harm in sending them no matter what. You will have the opportunity, because like I said, ACT is part of state testing, so you'll have the opportunity when we register you here at school to put 4 schools down, and then those will get sent out for free at no charge. If next year you decide to send scores to different colleges, not the 4 that you put down, then it's $16 a pop. So you do want to put 4 down so that you get that free option. Even if you don't have 4 that you're thinking about, it's a good idea to put 4 down. So that's all my part. I will turn over the scholarship and financial aid part to Kirsten.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is a question that we get a lot is financial aid. What do I do? How do I do this? Is this important? So we're just going to kind of go over a brief overview of this. We'll go more in depth next year too. But a really good resource that I like to refer families to a lot is when you start to fill out FAFSA, if you have questions, always feel free to reach out to the universities that you are applying to and connect with their financial aid office as well. And check out local schools. I know this year Northwood Tech is hosting a FAFSA night. They have a lot of virtual and in person. Again, this is just going to be an overview of FAFSA for all of you with obviously students who are juniors. You can't actually start FAFSA until next year in October. So it always starts the year before you are applying to school, that October, and then you have until June 30th that summer right before you go to college to fill out the application. So you have a pretty big window. So the different types of financial aid options or for paying for college is with scholarships, grants, and loans. So scholarships, that is going to be money that is free to you. You typically have to apply to these, and if awarded, like I said, it's free money for your education. Primarily you do this senior year. There may be some opportunities sooner, but they typically are looking for those seniors to get those scholarships that way. And then there are also grants that you can qualify for. Oftentimes these are need-based, and you have to complete FAFSA in order to be eligible for these. And this also is money that you do not have to pay back. So as much as you can, you want to make sure that you're spending the time applying for scholarships and grants, because you want to get as many of those as you can so you don't have to take out as many loans. Loans obviously are things that you have to pay back. Money that you have to pay back. So we have public and federal aid, which comes from FAFSA, and then whatever is left over from what you receive from FAFSA, scholarships and grants, that's when then you would look at that total to see how many private loans you'd have to take or pay out of pocket for that kind of stuff. So loans are offered through the government with FAFSA for lower interest rates than private loans. So this is always really great if you need to take out loans, trying to utilize as many of your FAFSA loans as possible. Oftentimes they have a lot of different programs for loan forgiveness if you work for certain companies. In the event, right, hopefully we never have another pandemic again, but right now FAFSA loans are on pause. You don't have to pay and they're not accruing interest either. So that's just a really good option. They do offer a grace period to repay, so usually you have a little bit more flexibility as to your repayment plans, making your payments a lot smaller, extending it a little bit longer times than when you have to pay them back. You can also be offered work study, so you're working while you're going to school, and that money helps pay for your tuition. So again, that's just another option for financial aid. You can receive subsidized or unsubsidized loans. If you have a choice, subsidized is always the best, but again, the qualification for that is typically need-based. And then for technical or community college programs are also eligible for financial aid as well. I hear that a lot of students saying, well, I'm just going to a tech school or I'm going to a trade school and I don't qualify for financial aid. I still recommend you apply and you try, because you can qualify for financial aid for that as well. So why apply for financial aid, right? Bottom line, there's no strings attached for applying. I think it's just in your best interest to take the time to apply, see what you're eligible for, and then go from there. There's no cost for applying, and then you can see, like I said, what you qualify for. So some colleges do require this to consider you for merit-based scholarships. Again, it's not just need-based, they also look at kind of how you are as a student as well. If you need help, you can always go to fafsa.gov or visit one of us, or attend one of the several free financial aid nights that are offered as well. With this too, a lot of times from the university itself, you might be saying, you know what, I just want to pay for college out of pocket, I've been saving money. Parents maybe say, I just want to pay for it. A lot of times the scholarships that you might be eligible for at the university itself won't even give that to you unless you've completed FAFSA. So just making sure that that's a priority that you do. So when we're talking about timelines, want to start filling out those applications for colleges September, October, and then really making sure that you get your FAFSA done October, probably beginning of November. So just keep some of those timelines and dates in mind. So how does it work? You can list several schools on FAFSA. I think you can list up to 10 schools, but you can always go in and change that. It's best to apply sooner rather than later. So again, that date for you all will be October 1st, 2023 is when the application opens. And then it would be June 30th of 2024 that your application period would end. So it's a pretty big window. But I like to think of FAFSA and financial aid as a big pot of money. They start dishing out money as applications come in, once students are getting accepted. If you wait till June 30th to fill out your application, the amount of aid that you're eligible for just goes down. So you want to make sure, if you want as much aid as possible, to really prioritize getting this done as soon as you can. You go to studentaid.gov, or how I always find it is I just go onto Google, type in FAFSA, and it's usually the first one right there. Both you and your student, so a parent and a student, have to fill out FAFSA, and it's one account per student for their whole life. So if you as a parent have filled out FAFSA when you were younger, or if you've recently gone to school, you want to make sure that you use that same account to get that. So you create an FSA ID. So again, that's your personal information, that's going to be your account, and you have to reapply every year for FAFSA. So every year that you're going to school, you have to make sure to go in and reapply. Sometimes that can be confusing, and they're like, well, I already applied once, why do I have to keep doing it? Because every year they're looking at your tax information, and so your financials can change, tax information can change. And typically as you're progressing through school, you tend to get a little bit more each year as you're showing good academic standing and that you're continuing your education. So making sure that you do that. You also need to make sure that you have your social security, like student and parent social security number, parent financial information, and the schools you have or are applying to. You oftentimes need their code. So you can always Google their financial aid code, or you can search for it while you're filling out FAFSA. And parents can list their financial info or information from previous year's taxes. So you always are going to want the most recent year's taxes that you filed for, your W-2s and that kind of stuff. It really helps if you can have all of that information ready when you go to fill out FAFSA. And I always just recommend families pick a weekend, set aside 2 hours, and just fill it out and get it done. Sometimes it doesn't take the whole 2 hours, but that way you can just get it all done, submitted, and you can move on, rather than having to go back. We all get busy and then we forget to do it, and then all of a sudden we're scrambling trying to get that in. Your application, so once you complete FAFSA and you submit it, your application will be sent to the Federal Financial Aid Office, as well as the financial aid offices at the schools you have listed on your application for review. So what that does is typically after you're done, you will get, or students will get an email saying, hey, you potentially qualify for this much. That's a great indicator or first step as to what you qualify for, but that isn't what your total package is. So last year I had a lot of students panic. They're like, I only have $5,000 and my tuition is $30,000. I'm like, that's just what's coming from FAFSA. You have to wait until you get your acceptance letters from your universities. We keep talking a lot about doing these things, FAFSA and college applications, pretty close in time together. Like Jenny had said, in May or in the spring, that's when you have to officially declare where you're going to go to school. So in that time, if you're waiting to apply and you're waiting to fill out FAFSA until later, you don't have as much time to plan and figure out really where you're going to go. College is expensive, but it doesn't have to be, right? If you're thoughtful and you're being really good at planning, you can go to college for a low cost, and it's just making sure you're giving yourself as much time as possible. So when you get accepted to schools, if you've already completed your FAFSA, you will get what's called an award letter, and in that letter will tell you all the scholarships that you've earned from the university, and then what you qualify for financial aid, and then at the bottom there's going to be a big number, and that's going to tell you what you have left to owe, right? You want that number as close to zero as possible, but you won't get those scholarships and you won't get that letter until you've completed FAFSA. And if you are wondering, well, gee, I submitted it, but I don't know if it's submitted. Now what do? The colleges that you're applying to will let you know you have not filled out FAFSA. They send you daily emails, they call you, hey, make sure you fill out FAFSA, so you'll get plenty of reminders. But that's just where I say try to designate time to just get it all done in one sitting. And then, so kind of like I said, you must be accepted to the school you plan on attending before you will receive any kind of award letters that you get. So kind of what that means is you can't just apply to FAFSA and then say, well, I just want to see how much I get before I start applying to schools. You have to do that both together because each school is going to offer something different. So that's where you want to make sure that you're applying to schools, you're getting accepted, and then you can look at all of your acceptance letters and all of your award letters to figure out what the best option is for you. So then other considerations, many private schools may offer more and larger scholarships, therefore bringing student costs down, usually based on academic achievement and ACT scores, but it also can be needs-based. So that's where, when we mention that ACT scores aren't necessarily being required for a lot of schools, if you're taking the test, you're happy with your score, it doesn't hurt to submit them. It can only benefit you by allowing you to get some more aid. Public universities also offer scholarship opportunities, so you want to make sure that you're checking with the schools directly. A lot of times they have a lot of scholarships for students who are first-year students, so that would be all of you. Sometimes a specific major or program that you're going to study has scholarships, so you can click and apply on those too. They're specific to the university itself. And then again, under Senior Planning tab, we will update local scholarships and scholarships that we're made aware of that you can apply to as well. Another question I get asked a lot from students is, can I keep applying for scholarships until my tuition is completely covered? Yes, you can. That is the goal, to do that. Take as much time. This should be, I don't know, not a full-time job, but a part-time job applying for scholarships. Really making sure you're doing your research, reaching out and doing that. You want that total at the end of every year to be as close to zero as possible, because then you graduate from college with little to no debt. So just making sure you do that. So any additional scholarships can help bring down the amount that you owe. So remember, all of this information can be found and is linked on both our junior and senior planning tabs. So if you want to plan ahead, definitely go to the senior planning tab, but if not, making sure that you're just up to date with what you need, clicking through that junior planning tab on our school counseling website is important. And then we are going to post this as well to our junior planning tab, and we're also planning to send it out in an email. So I know this was a lot of information. We have a couple of videos and links that you can click through, so if you have questions, make sure to click through them. And then we also have out in the front, we'll have a table outside of the auditorium where you guys can sign up for junior conferences with one of us. If you, no? Oh, just kidding, we're sending an email. So that'll be the email with the slideshow. So if you guys have questions or you want to talk specifically about your situation or your case, you can always click on that, set up a time with us, and we can talk through some of that. Financial aid and FAFSA can seem overwhelming. Once you start clicking through it, it's just a lot of really personal, just financial information. I always like to recommend be as open and honest as you can while you're filling that out, because it can only benefit you. And if you have not already started to talk about college and plans, maybe setting aside time here in the near future to have those family conversations about where are you thinking about going, what do you want to do, and then just being really realistic about what is affordable for you and your family. It doesn't mean that has to be the end-all be-all. If right now you can't afford a full traditional four-year school, that's okay. Like we mentioned, there's plenty of transfer programs from a 2-year to a 4-year. But it's just better to have those conversations now rather than senior year having that be a surprise. And then you can also plan as a family, okay, here's where we need to do for scholarships, here's what we need to do for FAFSA, just making sure that you're gathering all that information. Does anyone have any questions about FAFSA right now? Yes, so that's a great question. So we get a lot too. My parents are divorced, or I have 2 households that I'm going between. Who fills out the FAFSA for me? There's a lot of different ways that you can go about this. Traditionally, they say it's the parent who has, and I don't really like the wording, but more of the financial impact for that child. So if there's a parent who has insurance plus doing sports fees plus whatever, that traditionally would be the parent. What we typically go with is what's off of taxes, so whoever claimed you as or claimed the child as a dependent, that's the parent that should be filling out FAFSA. If, there's lots of different circumstances, there's lots of different ways to kind of go around things, but that's just kind of the overall general rule of thumb when you're starting to talk about that. So just being, again, mindful and planful while you're going through this year to figure out who that will be.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, we attended like a UW workshop last year when they talked with us about FAFSA, and another just rule of thumb is like if you're a primary caregiver, if they're mainly with you, you're gonna put your stuff on. But if you are remarried, you do have to put your spouse's information on. But if it's 50-50, then it's generally who provides more of the income help for the student, or you can just decide together which one of us wants to take that. So you can ask us if you have questions, but the FAFSA also guides you through that as well.
Any other questions with this? Awesome. So here, I was the one that said we should have this, and I forgot. So here are a couple upcoming opportunities for you guys. Again, this is all about just exploring careers, figuring out what you want to do. I always say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so we have a couple opportunities. So we have Camp Enterprise coming up. I'll pass that off to somebody else real quick, but I just want to talk about the other ones quick. So Stout, UW Stout is having a future teacher event that they are hosting on their campus. So there's a link here. It's November 14th from 9 a.m. to 2. This could also count as one of your college visits. Go and explore. But if you are interested in the field of education and are thinking about being a teacher, this is a really great opportunity to get to know their faculty, kind of understand how that field is growing, what you need for that. To do that. And then senior year, there's College School Wisconsin, and that is focused a lot on FAFSA help and financial aid help. So let's talk about camp.
Yeah, so literally if you are intimidated about the FAFSA, you can bring all of your materials to Northwood Tech on College School Day, and they will help you fill it out, and you will leave there with it done. So it's an amazing option, and we will remind you guys about that next year. Camp Enterprise, if there's anybody in here that's interested in pursuing a business career, our local Rotary Club sponsors 2 students to attend Camp Enterprise. The dates are, I believe it's the first weekend in November, so you miss, I think, 1 day of school, and then it's over the weekend. But talk to me about that if you are at all interested in that. It's a great way to network with businesses and meet other students from other high schools all over Minnesota and Wisconsin. You can win a scholarship. and just get involved in business if that's what you're considering. So seek us out if you want to be considered for that. Oh, and then wrapping up more, Asvab sign up is, so if you are interested in that career exploration or military exam, you can just sign up out in the hall on the tables there. We will send a follow-up email with this presentation. It's being recorded right now, so you can even watch it and hear us all talk again if you really want to. Or you can just click through and find those links. If you want an individual meeting with us because you have specific questions and want to talk more about your goals and plans, you can sign up through that email as well. And then we'll stick around for questions too if you want to come up. Thank you guys all for attending. We appreciate it.
Any other